Dallas Races Net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC.
Saturday, September 27th, 8:52 p.m. Saturday, September 27th, 8:53 p.m.
And I think the repeater might be a little closer to accurate time now. KF5 PGM.
This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
The time is 8:55 p.m. The time is 8:56 p.m.
Ham Fixin's Net, first and third Monday, 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KF5PDS. My name is Billye, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the # break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 MHz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org, look for tonight's announcement, and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we'll continue to do that too, over air and on Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. We have KE5ICX, Tom, Corpus Christi on the All-Star link. K5MCD, Cody in Dallas over Air Radio. W5DLT, Bill in Garland over Air Radio. NT5TM, Tony in Bird City over Air Radio. Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas over Air Radio. KF5JHA, Chaz and Bob the Cat, Animal Planet, multiple modes. N5BB, Bill in Irving over Air Radio. And N5 Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, and Mesquite online on YouTube. All right, now let's start with voice check-ins, starting with short time check-ins. So if you're short time, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from this evening.
Kilo India 5, Papa Golf Mike, Travis, mobile on 75.
Copy that. KI5PGM, Travis, mobile on 75. Do we have any other short time check-ins? Okay, not hearing any more short times, so let's move on to general check-ins. So the same request, please come now with your call sign, name, call sign, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Juliet 5, Mike November Delta, Phil in Lakewood. This is Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
Alpha Bravo 5, Delta Mike, Dustin in Dallas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, North Carrollton.
Okay, let's go ahead and take those. That's a good round of check-ins. So I have Kilo Juliet 5, I think it was Mike Uniform Delta, Phil in Lakewood, W5GUS, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas, K5ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch, AB5DM, Dustin in Dallas, and KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton. So do we have any more general check-ins? If so, please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, not hearing any more generals, so we'll move over to Echolink check-ins. I'll give you some extra time for Echolink. If you have not checked in yet over there on Echolink, I'll give you time for voice, and if you don't have a microphone, feel free to type in the chat. Echolink check-ins at this time. Okay, not hearing anybody or seeing any in the chat, but I do see some names of folks that have not yet checked in. K1GBD, Guy, KD5LQD, Jimmy, and BU2GH, which looks like a link, Kim Lau. So is there anyone else out there that would like to check in? Let's do an open round. If you have not checked in yet, any mode, please come now with your name, call sign, where you're transmitting from, any mode.
This
is Kilo Juliet 5, Mike November Delta. I feel like you got my call sign wrong. I'm sorry.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power.
This is Kilo November 5, Echo, 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 Al from Allen, Texas.
Okay, let me acknowledge those. Phil, my apologies. Kilo Juliet 5, Mike November Delta. That was my error, so I just couldn't read my own handwriting. Sorry about that. Phil in Lakewood, got you. Got that checked. Mike November Delta. And then we have WB4MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power. And Kilo November 5, Echo, 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 Al in Allen. All right, do we have any other check-ins before we move on to start our net? If you would like to check in any mode, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
All right, the net recognizes NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Thanks for checking in. All right, let's go ahead and move on and get started with general announcements. So do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, Tony, what announcements do you have for us this evening? Good evening.
Good evening, Billy. I'm really glad to be here. Our Afterglow movie discussion tonight will focus on Dark Star, the 1974 black comedy that was the ancestor of Alien. Really, not kidding. It's fun, it's quirky, it's strange. Please join us at about 10:30-ish tonight, and you too can say, "Let there be light." Kaboom. If you are a contester, or if you're just interested in the old-fashioned RIDI mode, the CQ Worldwide RIDI contest is going on right now. Activity in this mode can be very hard to find when there's not a special event. So if you'd like to learn more about RIDI, which I should, I've only ever made 2 RIDI contacts, and I've been a ham since 2008. If you're ever interested in learning more about RIDI, this is a great weekend to do it. Get started. Get on the air. So, this Monday is going to feature a special net, the first ever meeting of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Book Club. Yes, join the book club. Join us at 7 p.m. and learn why Hawaii and Norway are not near each other and discover the meaning of corn. Or perhaps you'd like to read Fill Your Life with Croutons. It's sure to be an interesting net where you can inflict your favorite books on your fellow hams. Yeah, it's not really a surprise net because I'm announcing the topic here, but please join us. I want to know what you're reading or what you wanted to read that you haven't read yet, or what you've read and you wished you hadn't. It's going to be a book club night this Monday at 7 p.m. on 146.88. Thank you for listening, NT5TM.
Great, thank you, Tony. And your announcement that it was a book club was a surprise to me. So, mission accomplished there. You surprised me. I can't wait. That sounds like a lot of fun. I've got some other announcements. So, the AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., you can check into the National AMSAT net. Learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. The AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tuesday's Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. The Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. You can check the W5FC.org website for details. And as Tony mentioned, this coming Monday is going to be the DARC Book Club meeting, first ever. So he just gave the details on that. Many hosted nets throughout the week. Monday at 7 p.m. is when the Monday night nets are. Saturdays are the night of nets, where we keep the airwaves buzzing until midnight. Here's the lineup. TechNet from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Q&A on all things ham radio related. There's also a swap meet, Rookies Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests, alternating net control each week. And at 9 p.m., Skynet from 9 to 10:30 p.m. Astronomy, space, and space exploration are the topics. Also news and information, satellite passes, and the Constellation of the week. And as Tony mentioned, after Skynet is the Afterglow movie net from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. We watch in the science fiction movie and then review it for about 90 minutes. More in a moment. First and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Meeting on the Air, or MOTA. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. Everyone can check into this net. And daily are the ARRLNet National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in, as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving Whiskey Alpha 5 Charlie Kilo Foxtrot repeater, 146.72 megahertz at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as mentioned before, following Skynet at 10:30 p.m. is the Afterglow movie net. So at this time, I'm going to turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5PDS.
Billye. This is KE5ICX. Here it is. The three young wannabe directors took another hit off the bong. Carpenter did another riff off his sitar, making a weird high-pitched noise the instrument wasn't accustomed to. Lucas shouted back, "Stop that!" Spielberg sat there thinking about the flat tire on his bike. He had no other transportation. Wouldn't it be great if we could master anti-gravity and then I could fly with my bike across campus? Man, that would be cool. Carpenter shouted back, "You dumbass, quit smoking that cheap weed. No one will take you for a serious director talking that smack." Lucas looked at both of them, dreaming of human-sized slugs running crime rings on desert planets. He wasn't going to say anything, as that would get ridicule from the other two. Carpenter finally spoke about his latest project. "Hey, O'Bannon wants to write a sci-fi adventure with an oversized pumpkin with claws, rampaging unhampered on board a spaceship. He calls it science fiction comedy horror." Lucas dismissed that one, as he already thought about something like that for a television sci-fi holiday special, but couldn't yet figure out exactly how to pitch it to CBS, the network most desperate for new programming without Carol Burnett starring in it. But before Carpenter could get off his duff, he looked at the lonely bong and decided yet another hit couldn't hurt. The other two thought the same thing and decided instead they needed something to eat. Maybe they could hit up that new fast food thing called McDonald's. Cheap food at cheap prices. Join us for the origin story for Alien and Aliens and every alien that came after that, called Dark Star, tonight at 10:30 p.m. From 1974. That's when it came out. Back to you, Billye. KE5ICX.
Great. Thanks very much, Tom. This is KFI-PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And you can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, W5FC.org. Let's check the list and see if we have anybody checked in via the website. I see Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson, over air radio. Welcome. Now I'll take additional voice check-ins. So if you have not checked into this evening's net, please go ahead with your name, call sign, where you're transmitting from. Not hearing anyone, so we'll go ahead and move on to our next segment, which is the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at this time, I'm going to hand off the net to Chaz and Bob the Cat, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KFI-PDS.
Yeah, I'm super distracted this evening. Bob the Cat's trying to walk on the computer. I've got 4 different screens on. Let's see, the Penn State Oregon game's on one of the screens. Let's see now. Over on Echolink, we're talking about the new series on Hulu called Alien Earth. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to talk about the Texas Astronomical Society. On September the 26th, that was last night, was the last Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting was held at 7:30 p.m. in person at University of Texas at Dallas. There was also a Zoom component. The featured speaker was Matt Penn. The topic was about citizen science on the last couple of solar eclipses, total solar eclipses, 2017 and 2024. It was really interesting. Now, tasked to host the Saturday night public observing sessions in the Dallas area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. But on the 4th Saturday of the month, that's tonight, there is no scheduled stargazing. Let's see now. Check the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing stations. Bob the Cat wants more attention. This is KF5JHA.
Great. Thanks, Chaz and Bob. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Bill, N5BB. The net is yours from KFI-PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is N5BB. I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is at ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Search for National Space Society of North Texas. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. Our last meeting presentation in September was Mars exploration, past, present, and future. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue Restaurant on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, October the 12th, always the second Sunday afternoon of the month. Our meetings are also available virtually. Contact Bill, N5BB, if you would like to attend. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. Location is along the eastbound service road of Highway 635 in North Irving. Anyone's welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. The next Space Rendezvous will be held Friday evening, October 31st, at our new location, which is Torchy's Tacos, which is 7855 Las Colinas Ridge in Irving. This is about a block east of Cheddar's Restaurant along Highway 635 in Irving. The United States Mint opened sales for rolls and bags containing the fourth and final American Innovation Texas $1 coin of 2025 in early August. The reverse design of the coins honors the innovation of mission control at the Johnson Space Center in Texas. So it has an astronaut shown adjacent to the International Space Station. These coins are legal tender, $1 legal tender, but they're not released through normal circulation. Please contact me, N5BB, if you'd like to one of these coins. If you have any questions about the National Space Society or the North Texas chapter, please contact Bill, N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. That's all I've got this evening, Billy. N5BB, back to net.
Great. Thank you very much, Bill. All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I'm going to call on Tom at KE5ICX if you'll read us the information for recent astronomical discoveries from KFI-PDS.
Thank you, Billy. And this is from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, actually, is where the original article came from, dated September 24th. It says, astronomers detected a black hole displaced nearly a kiloparsec from the center of a dwarf galaxy 230 million light years away. Unlike most, it's actually feeding and producing radio jets, making it one of the most convincing off-nuclear cases ever confirmed. The discovery reveals that black holes can grow and shape galaxies even when not in the core, reshaping theories of cosmic evolution. Traditionally, black holes are usually thought to reside at the center of the universe of galaxies. However, a research team led by Dr. An Tao from the Shanghai Astronomical Observatory of Chinese Academy of Sciences has discovered a wandering black hole in a dwarf galaxy located about 230 million light years away. Unlike typical black holes, this one is not located at the galactic center, but rather is offset by nearly 1 kiloparsec and is launching radio jets. This off-nuclear in situ accreting black hole with jets found in a nearby dwarf galaxy is one of the closest and most convincing cases confirmed thus far. The discovery published in the Science Bulletin on September 4th strengthens the idea that black hole growth is not limited to galactic centers, offering a new perspective on how supermassive black holes could have grown so rapidly in the early universe. In the common picture of the cosmos, black holes are often regarded as the hearts of galaxies. However, an increasing number of observations show that some black holes do not remain obediently at the galactic center. Instead, they are displaced, roaming through the galactic disk or outskirts. These displaced black holes are wandering black holes Why look for them in dwarf galaxies? Have smaller, more simpler clues about the early growth of black holes. Theory predicts that gravitational recoil after galaxy mergers or interactions involving multiple bodies can easily kick black holes out of the shallow gravitational wells of dwarf galaxies, leaving them wandering thousands of light years away. Some simulations even suggest that a considerable fraction of dwarf galaxy black holes may be displaced by nearly a kiloparsec, or about 3,000 light years. Yet, for a long time, direct and unambiguous observational evidence has been lacking. The researcher, led by Dr. An, focused on the research led by Dr. An focused on dwarf galaxy named Magna 12772-12704, located only 230 million light years away from the Earth. Using an integral field unit data from the mapping nearby galaxies at Apache Point Observatory, or BAGA, survey, they found that this galaxy exhibits weak active galactic nucleus, or AGN, signatures. Although its overall morphology is regular and shows no obvious signs of merging or double AGN, one key feature stood out. The associated radio emission is offset by a geographic center of the galaxy by nearly 1 kiloparsec. Follow-up observations of the very long base array, or VLBA, at 1.6 and 4.9 gigahertz revealed that the source lies 2.68 arcseconds away from the galactic center, with a radio source brightness temperature exceeding 1 billion kelvins. At 1.6 gigahertz, they detected the jet structure extending about 2.2 parsecs, or 7.2 light years, southeastward. These are typical AGN features. Furthermore, analyzing archival data spanning from 1993 to 2023, the researchers discovered that the source exhibits irregular long-term variability, becoming brighter and dimmer over decades. Its behavior is consistent with sustained in situ accretion onto a black hole, and clearly distinct from the monotonically decreasing typical of supernova remnants, effectively ruling out imposters.
Based on the stellar mass of the host galaxy, and the black hole's mass is estimated to be about 300,000 times that of the Sun, placing it in the intermediate mass black hole category. Together, they confirm that this is indeed an active accreting off-nuclear black hole with jets, currently the nearest and most robustly confirmed case of its kind. This is a cosmic lighthouse lit by a wandering black hole. Although it's strayed from the galactic center, it still shines outward with powerful energy. From a broader statistical perspective, this discovery is particularly striking. Out of the 3,000 magna dwarf galaxies, 628 show possible AGN activity, and about 62% appeared offset from their optical centers. Only Manga 12704 satisfied the triple source evidence criteria: a compact high brightness core, parsec scale jets, and decades-long variability. This suggests that off-nuclear phenomena may not be uncommon. However, a candidate does not equal confirmed detection. In dwarf galaxies especially, it's extremely difficult to obtain clear observational evidence for wandering AGNs. The prevailing view has long been that supermassive black holes primarily grow at galactic centers, rapidly feeding in central glass reservoirs. This study, however, demonstrates that an intermediate mass black hole located outside the galactic nucleus can also sustain accretion and produce jets. These provide direct observational support for the idea that distributed feeding and multi-site route as a potential pathway for rapid formation of supermassive black holes in a near early universe. This discovery prompts us to rethink black hole galaxy coevolution. Black holes are not only central engines, they may also quietly reshape their host galaxies from the outskirts. Even when located in galaxies' suburbs, wandering black holes can inject energy into the surroundings through powerful outflows, influencing galactic dynamics and star formation. This study transforms wandering black holes from theoretical speculation into direct observation reality. With the advent of next-generation telescopes, such lost black holes may no longer be rare. In the near future, extremely large optical telescopes will measure galactic centers and structures with higher precision. Meanwhile, deep, high-resolution radio surveys using facilities such as the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope or fast core array and square kilometer array will detect even fainter radio signals, potentially resolving sub-parsec scale microjets. These advances will lead to breakthroughs in confirming the statistically studying off-nuclear black holes. Perhaps one day we'll recognize that wandering black holes are not rare at all, but rather silent travelers at the edges of galaxies, quietly shaping their host cosmic evolution. This study was supported by the National SKA Program of China and the National Natural Science Foundation of China, among others. That's it. That's the report for this week. Back to you, Billye. This is KE5ITX.
Great. Thank you, Tom. This is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. So tonight, for my topic, I have chosen Gregorian telescope design. If you were around for my talk last month, I talked about the giant Magellan telescope, which will use Gregorian optics. So I figured this would be a good follow-up. What is a Gregorian telescope? So the Gregorian telescope is a type of reflecting telescope designed by Scottish mathematician and astronomer James Gregory in the 17th century and first built in 1673 by Robert Hooke. This information comes to us via Wikipedia. James Gregory was a contemporary of Isaac Newton, and both often worked simultaneously on similar projects. Gregory's design was published in 1663 and predates the first practical reflecting telescope, the Newtonian telescope, built by Sir Isaac Newton in 1668. However, Gregory's design was only a theoretical description, and he never actually constructed the telescope. It was not successfully built until 5 years after Newton's first reflecting telescope. So again, the Gregorian telescope is named after the James Gregory design, which appeared in his 1663 publication Optica Promota, The Advance of Optics. Similar theoretical designs have been found in the writings of Bonaventura Cavalieri in 1632 and Marin Mersenne in 1636. Gregory's early attempts to build the telescope failed, since he had no practical skill himself and could find no optician capable of actually constructing one. It was not until 10 years after Gregory's publication, aided by the interest of experimental scientist Robert Hooke, that a working instrument was created. The early Scottish optician and telescope maker James Short built Gregorian telescopes with parabolic mirrors made from the highly reflective speculum metal. So here's a little about the design. The Gregorian telescope consists of two concave mirrors. The primary mirror, a concave paraboloid, collects the light and brings it to a focus before the secondary mirror, a concave ellipsoid, where it is reflected back through a hole in the center of the primary and thence out the bottom end of the instrument, where it can be viewed with the aid of the eyepiece. The Gregorian design solved the problem of viewing the image in a reflector by allowing the observer to stand behind the primary mirror. This design of the telescope renders an erect image, making it useful for terrestrial observations. It also works as a telephoto lens, with its tube much shorter than the system's actual focal length. The design was largely superseded by the Cassegrain telescope. It is still used for some spotting scopes because this design creates an erect image without the need for prisms. The Stewart Observatory Mirror Lab has been making mirrors for large Gregorian telescopes at least since 1985. In the Gregorian design, the primary mirror creates a real image before the secondary mirror. This allows for a field stop to be placed at this location so that the light from outside the field of view does not reach the secondary mirror. This is a major advantage for solar telescopes, where a field stop, known as a Gregorian stop, can reduce the amount of heat reaching the secondary mirror and subsequent optical components. The Solar Optical Telescope on the Hinode satellite is one example of this design. For amateur telescope makers, the Gregorian can be less difficult to fabricate than a Cassegrain because the concave secondary is Foucault testable like the primary, which is not the case with the Cassegrain's convex secondary. And on the website, there's a gallery. There's a Gregorian telescope circa 1735 and a nice side view of that telescope, as well as an 1873 diagram of a Gregorian telescope, which is being shown on the YouTube channel right now. Thank you, Tom. All right, some examples. The Meerkat, the Green Bank telescope, and the Allen telescope array are all radio telescopes employing off-axis Gregorian optics. And Arecibo Observatory was also one as well. The Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope, the Magellan telescopes, and the Large Binocular Telescope use Gregorian optics. As I mentioned last month, the Giant Magellan Telescope will also use Gregorian optics. And there's also the NSF's Daniel K. Inouye Solar Telescope. So there's some information. You can also find these other telescopes on Wikipedia, as well as some NASA websites. If you just Google Gregorian telescope, the Wikipedia article is there with copious links to other telescopes and other interesting information there on the website. So there's information about Gregorian telescope design. This is KFI PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Okay, doing a quick check. I don't see anyone else checked in on the sheet over there from the website. If there's anyone out there that has not checked into this evening's net and would like to do so now, please come now with your name, call sign, where you're transmitting from. Does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? If so, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing anything, so let's go ahead and move over to our next segment, What's Up? So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz, KFI-HA. The net is yours from KFI-PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening once again, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 2. Now, I'm talking about slides. That's over on the video version of Echolink, video version of Skynet, and Skynet video version can be found by going to W5FC.org and click on the link. It goes to YouTube. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on or what has gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness around 10th magnitude, just checked it a few minutes ago, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. Now, new predictions are November 10th of this year or June 25th of next year. When it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. This image on the video version of Skynet was taken on Thursday, September the 24th from spaceweather.com. It's the image of the sun. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to view them. That's happened a couple of times over the last 3 months. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. Now, I talked about the solar cycle about 5 months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5. Comet C2025R2 Swan is maybe bright enough to be seen in binoculars in the western evening sky. It's around 7th magnitude. Go to spaceweather.com to find out images and finder charts. Right now, well, a week ago, the comet was close to Mars. I haven't checked on its current location. Slide Master, slide number 6. The new moon was on September the 21st, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. First quarter moon is on September the 29th in a couple of days. October the 6th is the full moon. On October the 8th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 369,819 kilometers. On October the 13th, the moon is at its third quarter phase. On October the 21st, the moon is new. On October the 23rd, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,444 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 7. September 22nd, at 1:19 p.m., that's what just happened this past week, was autumnal equinox for the northern hemisphere. Did you feel it? Everywhere on the Earth was 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. Also, the sun rose east and set west everywhere on the Earth. Hope you participated in that. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. I forgot to delete a couple of slides on my presentation. On September the 24th, a few days ago, there was a conjunction of the moon and the planet Mars in the western evening sky. You probably need binoculars to find Mars in the evening sky because of the bright twilight. On September 27th, that is now, there was a daytime meteor shower called the Sextans, which had an unknown number of meteors per hour. Now, how do you observe daytime meteors? Well, that's using radio. How do you do that? Well, you can get detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers. You can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Let's see now. Right now, if you would have gone out a little bit earlier, I think it's already set. I haven't peeked out the window. There was a conjunction of the moon and the bright star Antares in the southwestern evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 11. On October the 2nd is the conjunction of Mercury and the the bright star Spica in the western evening sky. Once again, binoculars will be needed to pull them out of the strong twilight. Slide Master, slide number 12. On October the 5th, there's a conjunction of the moon, Saturn, and Neptune in the eastern evening sky. Yep, you can see Saturn in the evening sky just shortly after sunset over there in the east. Neptune, you'd need a telescope to be able to observe. Not even binoculars will pull it out, so you'll need a telescope to find Neptune. Slide Master, slide number 13. On October the 6th is the conjunction of the asteroid Vesta and the bright star Antares in the southwestern evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 14. On September 27th is the peak of the Draconid meteor shower. Now, we might have about a handful of meteors, or as many as 1,000 meteors per hour. We're not quite sure how many we'll see. Wait. Most of the time you can see most meteors just before dawn. To get detailed information about that, you can go once again to the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 15. October the 9th, there's an occultation of the Pleiades by the moon. You know, the Pleiades, that's that star cluster in Taurus the Bull. Now, using a pair of binoculars or telescope will allow you to observe the event very easily. Just your two eyes might not do it because of the bright moon. Between 10:15 p.m. on October the 9th through 3 p.m. on October the 10th will give you the best views. Hope it's clear here. Slide Master, slide number 16 on on October, I'm not sure what the date is. I have to look at my slides. Is the peak of the southern Taurid meteor shower with around half a dozen meteors per hour. And once again, go to IMO.net or amsmeteors.org to find out more information about how to observe meteors. Well, that would be on October the 9th and 10th. Okay, this is KF5JJ and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 17. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information I've given you? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
November Foxtrot 4 uniform.
For uniform, go ahead.
Yeah, long-time listener, never really have checked in. Have a question. Handle here is Jeff. Call sign November Foxtrot 4 uniform, based in Dallas, Texas. Curious about astrophotography and any recommendations you guys might have about procuring a rig to start getting into the hobby. I've seen some of the material around the C-Star products, and just curious what you guys might recommend. Go ahead.
Oh, this could take a 2-hour explanation. I actually have two different C-Stars, a C-Star S30 and a C-Star S50. Those are very nice little pieces of equipment, and you can do astrophotography from inside the city. I've taken really good photographs, or I should say images, from my very light polluted location here in Mesquite. And yes, they're awesome to use. If you've never done astrophotography, that would be a good inroads to doing that. If you'd like to get more detailed information, you can go to the TAS website, texasastro.org, and that would give you a link into some information about astrophotography. We've done some presentations at the Astronomy Club meetings before about astrophotography, and the club actually has separate meetings about astrophotography that you could join. So you could get that information off the website as well, texasastro.org. That's several meetings for oh, there you go. If you've got the video version of Skynet, there's a picture of the S50 right now on the video version. And it is really an awesome piece of equipment. Does that help start to answer your question?
It sure does. I appreciate the recommendation. I'll check out the URL and look forward to maybe being a bit more active in this part of the hobby going forward. And just a general comment, you guys are amazing. I've spent several years now listening to this net, never really have checked in, and I'm just so impressed by the material that you guys share. So keep up the great work. I wish you guys all a great evening. 73, November Fox 4 uniform.
Appreciate it, Jeff. We've been doing this since 2012. There you go. All right, if there's no other questions, slide master, slide number 18. So as the moon waned last week, so do these words for the segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world because it's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet, transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control. Billy, it's yours.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And glad that you could join us, Jeff. November Foxtrot 4 uniform from Dallas. I've got you checked in. And yes, the texasastro.org is a great website to go to. There are a lot of other features out there. And then definitely get into that astrophotography special interest group. They will have lots of information for you, and they would usually, when I used to go to those, they did show and tell and had a lot of knowledgeable folks with a lot of different equipment. So you can learn a lot from those meetings. So I hope you get to connect with those folks, Jeff. Next up is space exploration and space history. At this time, I'm going to turn the net over to Gus, W5GUS. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Okay, thank you, Billy. W5GUS here with this week's space exploration news. An unassuming rock collected from the surface of the moon over 50 years ago by the Apollo 17 astronauts Gene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt could completely alter what we thought we knew about the early days of the moon and what we thought we knew about the entire solar system. The rock sample, cataloged simply as 76535, has a chemistry and texture that indicates it formed deep down in the moon's crust, nearly 31 miles underground. And moreover, the radioisotope dating places it as having been on the lunar surface for 4.25 billion with a B years. Liberating rock so deep takes the most enormous of impacts. The assumption had been that the impact that gouged out the South Pole at Aitken Basin, which is the largest impact site on the moon, had dug out rock 76535, since their ages approximately a match. However, new simulations show that the rock, let's just call it 535, probably formed beneath the ground where it was found at Apollo 11's landing site in the Taurus Littrow Valley on the eastern flank of the Sea of Serenity. Okay, and let's move to a different topic here. An international collaboration of astronomers, including researchers from the University of Toronto, have detected the brightest fast radio burst, or FRB, to date, and have been able to pinpoint its location in a nearby galaxy by using a network of radio telescopes. FRBs are extremely energetic flashes from distant sources from across the universe that are caused by extreme astrophysical phenomena. Yet they remain poorly understood by scientists and are among astronomy's most mysterious phenomena. Pinpointing their location promises to usher in a new era of discovery, allowing scientists to trace their true cosmic origins. Okay, the new FRB signal, called FRB 20250316 alpha, and playfully nicknamed RB Float for radio, it stands for Radio Brightest Flash of All Time, was very precisely localized using a new FRB outrigger array as part of the Canadian mapping experiment called CHIME, C-H-I-M-E, which has detected thousands of FRBs since 2018. These smaller versions of the CHIME instrument, located in British Columbia, Northern California, West Virginia, allow astronomers to perform very long baseline interferometry, VLBI, a technique that can pinpoint the location of FRBs with unprecedented accuracy. They say we were ultimately extremely lucky that we were able to pinpoint the precise sky position of this rare event, says Matthias Lesda, a student at the David A. Dunlop Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics in the Faculty of Arts and Science, who is an author of on 2 new papers about this discovery. He said, a few hours after we detected it, we experienced a power outage at one of our telescope sites that played a critical role in telling us where the burst came from. Had the event happened any later that day, we would have completely missed our chance. And although FRBs are among the most powerful radio sources in the universe, they last only a few milliseconds to seconds, briefly outshining all other radio sources in their galaxy. RB float, detected on March 16, 2025, lasted only about 1/5 of a second. Quoting here again, cosmically speaking, this fast radio burst is just in our neighborhood, says Associate Professor of Physics at MIT Institute. This means we get this chance to study a pretty normal FRB in exquisite detail. Okay, we'll move on to space-related birthdays for this week in history. September 21st, 1955, Richard Hybe, STS-39, STS-49, STS-65. All right, and then Robert Satcher, September 22nd, 1965, was on STS-129. William C. McCool was born on September 23rd, 1961. He was on STS-107. And on September 23rd, 1944, Lauren Shriver was born. She was on, or he was born on was on STS-51C, STS-31, STS-46. And on, let's see, September 24th in 1930, John Young was born. He was on Gemini 3. Also Gemini 10, Apollo 10, Apollo 16, STS-1, STS-9. Pretty busy career there. Okay, on September 24th, 1975, Nick Hague was born. He was on Soyuz MS-10, Soyuz MS-12, SpaceX Crew 9, Expedition 72. And September 26th, 1932, Clifton Williams was born, but he had no flights. He died in a plane crash. Okay, we'll move on to September 27th, 1966. Stephanie Wilson was born, STS-121, STS-120, and STS-131. Okay, that's it for the space-related birthdays. So let's move on to this week in space history. Kind of interesting week. September 25th, 1973, Skylab 3 was the second crewed mission to the first American space station, which was called Skylab. The mission began on July 28, 73, with the launch of NASA astronauts Alan Bean, Owen Garrett, and Jack Lausma in the Apollo Command and Service Module on the Saturn 1B rocket, and lasted 59 days, 11 hours, and 9 minutes. And a total of 1,100 astronaut utilization hours were tallied by the Skylab 3 crew, performing scientific experiments in the areas of medical activities, solar observations, Earth resources, and other experiments. Okay, and on September 26, 2022, at 23:14 UTC, DARC spacecraft successfully collided with the asteroid Dimorphos. That's about 11 million kilometers, a distance of about 6.8 million miles from Earth. The collision shortened Dimorphos' orbit by 32 minutes. This was the asteroid that they aimed at and hit at a distance of 6.8 million miles from Earth. The collision shortened Dimorphos' orbit by 32 minutes, greatly in excess of the predefined success threshold of 73 seconds. DARC's success in deflecting Dimorphos was due to the momentum transfer associated with the recoil of the ejected debris, which was substantially larger than that caused by the impact itself. Okay, and September 27, 1997, NASA's Mars Pathfinder mission beamed its very last data transmission back to Earth. The Mars Pathfinder mission consisted of a base station and the very first Mars rover named Sojourner. Pathfinder was 3 months into what was supposed to be just a 1-month mission when the base station's battery began to fail. NASA struggled to reestablish contact with Pathfinder for another 5 months before giving up and calling the mission complete. And with that, I think I will call this edition of Space Exploration News complete and send it, the net back to get our Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week as the next segment. So back to you, net control, W5GUS.
Great. Thanks very much, Gus. This is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Looking over on our hot link check-in, I don't see anybody else checked in there, but if there's anybody out there that has not checked into this evening's net that would like to do so, I'll give you an opportunity right now. If you would, please give me your name, call sign, where you're transmitting from. Okay, not hearing anyone, so we'll move on, as Gus said, to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So this time I will return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billye. Just to let you know, one of the distracted screens I'm watching is the Penn State and Oregon game. They're in their second overtime right now. Oh, wow. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 19. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Such are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Microscopium. Yep, it's a microscope. And I've added more than the 52 because sometimes I do 2 constellations, so we're probably up to about 70 constellations we cover over the course of a year. Microscopium represents the microscope and is not associated with any myth. Microscopium is the 66th constellation in size. It has no Messier objects in it, and Microscopium does not contain any named stars. Okay, one of the most important parts of Skynet. Jeff, I hope you like this part. It's the jokes of the week. Slide number 20. I was trying to come up with a joke about microscopes, but then I realized I had a bad objective. Why did the germs cross the microscope? To get to the other slide. I looked at a penny under a microscope and said, Magnificent. Magnificent. Get it? I highly respect microscopes. They teach us to enjoy the little things in life. What do you call a mouthwash for tiny scientists? Well, that would be a microscope. Oh, and this is the last one. Here we go. A scientist called the customer support on his microscope company and complained that the light bulb was broken. Customer support responded that they would look into it. And this is Skynet KF5JHA. Slide master, slide number 21. Theta Microscopium is the third brightest star in the constellation and consists of a wide double star, Theta 1 and Theta 2, which can both be seen without binoculars in ideal conditions. Both components belong to the same spectral class A and are white and magnetic spectrum variable stars that have strong metallic lines. Alpha Microscopium is the fourth brightest star. Usually Alpha is the brightest star, but in this case it's the fourth brightest star in this constellation. It is a variable star with an apparent magnitude range from 4.88 to 4.94. The star is approximately 380 light years distance from the Earth. Alpha Microscopium is the spectral class G73, yellow giant star in a double system. The visual companion has an apparent magnitude of 10 with a separation of about 20.4 arcseconds, which can be seen in small telescopes. LaSalle 8760 is one of the nearest stars to the Sun. It's only 12.87 light years distant. It has a stellar magnification of M05E. It has an apparent magnitude of 6.67, too faint to be seen without binoculars. It is a variable star classified as a flare star that erupts less than once a day on average. It has a mass of about 60% that of the Sun, and is one of the largest and brightest red dwarfs known. Slide master, slide number 22. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, number 6925, is a barred spiral galaxy. It has an apparent magnitude of 11.3. The galaxy has a lens shape and appears almost edge-on when seen from the Earth. It can be found about 3.7 degrees to the west-northwest of Alpha Microscopium. It was discovered by the English astronomer John Herschel in July 1834. A Type 2b supernova, SN 2011 EI, was observed in the galaxy, of course, in the year 2011. Slide master, slide number 23. NGC, again that stands for New General Catalog, 6923 is another barred spiral galaxy. It has an apparent magnitude of 12.2, which is fainter than 6925, and lies approximately 36 million parsecs from the Earth. The galaxy is also discovered by John Herschel in the summer of 1834. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 24. There are a few more astronomically observing program objects in the constellation of Microscopium, the microscope. I've given you just a sampling of some of the objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. And that is Ms. Kellen's Constellation of the Week, Microscopium, the microscope. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and work on deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and steal from them for every Skynet. I also use at times the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next week, we'll take a look at a twofer: Pisces austrinus, the southern fish, and grouse. What the heck is a grouse? Guess you'll have to stay tuned for next week's Constellation of the Week and find out. This is KF5, JHA Chaz saying goodnight. 73. Back to our net control. Billye, it's all yours.
Great, thanks very much, Chaz. This is KFI PDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, at this time, we're going to move over to space launches for the week. So at this time, I will return the net to Tom, KE5ICX. And if you want to go ahead and roll right into the visible satellite passages segment after you do space launches, that would be great. So this is to KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Ms. Billye. This is KE5ICX. Well, we got another busy week. September 28th, tomorrow, will be launched Falcon 9 Starlink 11-20. This is from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California at 4:32 p.m. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit, a little more than 8 minutes after liftoff. The first stage booster, tail number B1063, will be launched for the 28th time, and will land on the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. October 1st, Falcon 9 Starlink 10-59 launch. That will be from SLC 40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. This will be 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites launched into low Earth orbit. 8 minutes after liftoff, tail number B1090, first stage, will be launching for its 8th time. Will land on a drone ship. Just read the instructions out the Atlantic. October 3rd, 4th, overnight, will be Project Kuiper. KF3 will launch on a Falcon 9. This will be a batch of satellites into low Earth orbit for the Amazon Project Kuiper internet service. The Falcon 9 first stage is expected to land on the drone ship, a short fall of Gravitas, positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. No tail number on that one. Oh well. Next up is sometime in October, Atlas V will launch a Viasat 3 F2. This is from SLC 41 at Cape Canaveral. This will launch the Atlas V rocket in the 551 configuration to support the launch of Viasat 3 Flight 2 satellite. This 6-ton spacecraft is designed to provide download speeds of more than 100 megabytes per second and operates using the Ka-band frequency. The satellite was built by Viasat on Boeing's 702 MP Plus platform. On October 20th, 21st will be the launch of HTV-X. This is from Yoshinobu Launch Complex in Japan. The JAXA Tanegashima Space Center, one of these days I will pronounce that correctly, will be an H-3 launch vehicle. The rocket developed through a partnership between Mitsubishi Heavy and JAXA will launch the first HTV-X cargo resupply vehicle to the International Space Station. And that's it there. Let's move on over to satellite passes. I get this information from heavensabove.com. You can go there as well, plug in your longitude and latitude, or even more easily, just plug in your city and state, and it will give you the closest match it can do. We have coming up the ISS Space Station has several passes that are quite good. We have on September 28th, this will be a minus 3.6 magnitude at 2041 in the evening. It reaches its highest point at 2044 at 57 degrees, and it will fall to the north-northeast into shadow at 2044 as well. So it reaches its highest point and then disappears. The following evening, September 29th, minus 2.8 magnitude at 1954 out of the northwest. At 1957, it will reach 31 degrees this time, and then it will fall to the west at 2132. Then we have, let's see here, the 30th. 30th has a minus 2.4 magnitude. That's at 2042 in the evening. It will reach its highest point at 35 degrees at 2045, and it will fall to the south-southwest at 2046. Finally, on October, they're brightest so far. This will be at 1954 northwest. It will reach its highest point at 1957 at 73 degrees, and will fall to the southeast at 2001. Then finally, October 3rd has a good pass, minus a 1.1 magnitude at 1956 in the evening. It will reach its highest point at 19 degrees at 1958, and it will fall to the south at 20:00:58. And that's it. Ms. Billye, back to you from KE5 ICX.
Great, thank you very much, Tom. And looking over on the website sheet, I see that WB5OZL Brenda has checked in from Dallas online Echolink. Welcome, Brenda. Is there anyone else that would like to check into this evening's net? We've got about 5 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and do a final check-in round. If there's anyone that would like to check in, we'll go ahead and if you'll give me your name, call sign, where you're transmitting from. Not hearing anyone else check in, are there any checked-in stations with any remarks or questions? Does anyone need any fills? All right, hearing nothing, we're going to go ahead and close the net. So tonight we had 24 hams participating on the air. So thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS Billye, and I'll be closing the net at 22:27 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, in about 5 minutes' time, the Afterglow movie net will start up. So go make you some popcorn and get ready for discussion on 1974's Dark Star. Get ready to float away with the Phoenix asteroids. This is KF5PDS 73, everybody.
Normal state.
fully operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, well, let's see. It is now time to start the Afterglow Movie Net, which is our weekly look at usually a science fiction film. Not always, but about nearly every time. I think we've done 3 non-science fiction films, although they did have some aspects or folks involved that did do science fiction. That's how they ended up on the list. But this is not one of them. This is actually an interesting film that came out in 1974. I remember seeing it at a convention in Detroit back in 1974. That was the first time I saw it. It was on a 16-millimeter projector in one of the halls that they had at the Book Cadillac Hotel in downtown Detroit. So met a lot of interesting people. None of them from this film. A number from Star Trek. It was one of those science fiction convention things. But it was a lot of fun. And I rather liked this film, although it was a bit odd and different. But let's go ahead and I'll tell you about it, and then I'll tell you what the game is that we play. The film is called Dark Stars from 1974. It was an independent science fiction comedy film produced in scored and directed by John Carpenter. He also edited the film, too. Co-written with Dan O'Bannon. It follows the crew of the deteriorating starship DARC Star, 20 years into their mission to destroy unstable planets that might threaten future colonization of other planets. Beginning as a University of Southern California, USC, student film produced from 1970 to 1972, it was gradually expanded with reshoots in 73, eventually appearing in its current feature-length form at Filmex in March of 74, and subsequently received a limited theatrical release in 1975. So I guess I saw an early version of this thing. Its final budget was estimated at $60,000. While initially unsuccessful with audiences, it was relatively well received by critics and continued to be shown in theaters as late as 1980. The home video revolution of the early 80s helped the movie achieve cult status. O'Bannon collaborated with film video distributor VCI in production of releases on VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, and eventually Blu-ray. DARC Star was Carpenter's feature directorial debut. He also scored the film. It was also a feature debut for O'Bannon, who also served as editor, production designer, visual effects supervisor, and appeared as Sergeant Pinback. All right, I'll give you a little bit about this plot. It is long, so I'm not going to do the whole thing, but it says in the mid-22nd century, mankind has begun to colonize interstellar space. Armed with artificial intelligence, thermostellar triggering devices, bombs that can talk and think, the scout ship DARC Star, with its crew of 5 and a sentient computer that manages the ship's system, searches for unstable planets that might threaten future colonization. 20 Earth years into the mission, the crew only aging 3 years in that time, the DARC Star has aged poorly and suffers frequent malfunctions of most systems. The ship experiences radiation leaks, a hull breach that destroys the living quarters, failing life support and communication systems, elevators that operate randomly, and self-destructing storage room that destroys the ship's entire supply of toilet paper. Commanding Officer Powell has died in one such event, electrocuted by his malfunctioning chair, but remains aboard in cryogenic suspension. Lieutenant Doolittle, a former surfer from Malibu, has reluctantly taken over as commander. The tedium of their mission has driven the crew of Sergeant Pinback, Boiler, and Talby around the bend, so they have created distractions for themselves. Talby spends all of his time in the observation dome staring blankly at stars. Boiler plays the knife game with a switchblade. Doolittle plays solitaire and a homemade xylophone. Practical Jokes maintains a video diary and has an adopted mischievous beach ball-like alien with sharp claws as the ship's mascot. After the alien escapes its room and attempts to push him down an elevator shaft, he accidentally kills it with a tranquilizer gun which pops the alien like a balloon. He claims to be Billye Frog, having accidentally replaced the real Pinback who committed suicide prior to the mission. En route to their next target, the Veiled Nebula, the DARC Star is hit by an electromagnetic energy during a space storm, resulting in another onboard malfunction. Thermostellar Bomb 20 receives an erroneous order to deploy, but the ship's computer talks it back into the bay. Subsequently, Pinback's alien activates the bomb circuits while loose from the storage room, causing Bomb 20 to again emerge from the bay. Once again, the computer is able to convince the bomb to return to the bay, but warns it will not be persuaded again. An accident with the laser while the crew is preparing for a real bomb run seriously damages the ship's computer, disables the bomb's release mechanism, causing Bomb 20 to become stuck in the bomb bay while counting down to detonation. This time the crew cannot convince the bomb to stand down. Doolittle revives Powell, who advises him to teach the bomb phenomenology. Doolittle spacewalks out to have a philosophical conversation with the bomb, explaining it cannot be sure is received a genuine detonation command. With seconds left until detonation, the bomb agrees to suspend its countdown while it ponders Doolittle's ideas. Pinback opens the airlock to admit Doolittle back into the ship, but accidentally ejects Tobby, who is in the airlock attempting to replace the laser. Doolittle uses his rocket pack to go after Tobby, who is in a spacesuit but has no maneuvering device. The bomb, meanwhile, has learned Cartesian doubt and decides that it can be sure of its own existence, and its sole purpose in life is to explode. Proclaiming, "Let there be light," the bomb detonates, destroying Dark Star along with Pinback and Boiler. Tobby and Doolittle, at a distance from the ship, are thrown clear. Tobby drifts away with the Phoenix asteroids, a traveling cluster with which he has long been fascinated. Doolittle, falling toward the unstable planet, finds an oblong hunk of debris and surfs into the atmosphere to die as a falling star. The end. And it even says that at the end of the film. The end. So there you have it. That's the story. And it's the origins for Dan O'Bannon and John Carpenter in their early days making films. And we were talking on the Echolink thing here earlier, that Dan O'Bannon is also credited with at least the creation of Alien and Aliens, which was what he worked on. He did the script for the movie Alien, inspired by this movie Dark Star. So there's that, and the massive franchise that Alien has become started from this student film way back in 1974. Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and take check. Let me try that again. So I'm going to take your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's film, Dark Star, from 1974. Here we go.
WV5OZL, Brenda. Yeah, I've seen this film. Saw it first run and then again. And I loved it.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. Yes, I saw this movie.
Ooh, not many, but I got two. I got WD5OZL, Brenda. Yes, she saw the film. And NB5F, Virginia. Yes, she saw the film. Others, please come now.
This is Whiskey 5, Bacon Lettuce Tomato, W5BLT. Bill, I kind of watched the movie. I was really lost. I probably won't comment on it as far as the plot characterization and stuff, but you can ask me if I'm going to watch it again later.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
Okay, I managed to scrape two more together. I got W5DOT Bill. He sort of saw the film, and he will be there for comments at some point. KV9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the film. Anyone else want to join us? Okay, well, let's do this. We'll ask again here in a little bit. I thought there might be more, but who knows? Things happen, and there could be some stragglers out there. So we'll just go down the list. We'll start with Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, you saw the movie last night, and you've seen it before. What do you think? And has your opinion changed of the film over the decades? From KE5, ICX.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I had no idea who John Carpenter was in 1974 when I saw it in the theater. It was just to me, it was just a nice little spoof, kind of funny and quirky, and some wonderful sight gags. But I enjoyed it for what it was, a little funny science fiction movie. We saw every science fiction movie we could at the time. I mean, I've been a big fan all my life. So, yeah, of course we'd go see it. But the plot was pretty simple, and it was easy to understand, although a lot of it was like, well, that makes no sense, or why did they do that? But, you know, I think it was pretty direct. It is what it is. Movie like this, you don't want to look for plot holes or strange things in the plot, because there's plenty of them there. It's not the point of movies like this is not to make a lot of sense, just to have some fun. I'm okay with that. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okay, pretty good. Next up is Virginia, C5F. Virginia, what do you think about the plot? And, well, we'll just start with that. Go right ahead.
Okay, well, it's a pretty leisurely plot. It kind of wanders around. I think the whole reason we're watching this movie is because a couple weeks ago I got a copy of the fanzine that the guys from my favorite 2001 podcast publish once a month, and one of the guys, I think they both work on the articles, but the guy who writes them did a really good job of talking about the history of Alien and all of its resulting films. And of course Dark Star was covered, and I was like, oh, I'd like to see that. And one of the reasons I wanted to see it was because Dan O'Bannon even talked about, I think in some interview that was cited, that this movie was intended to be kind of the anti-2001. Everything's kind of the opposite, you know, the guys are all, you know, nobody's clean cut, the ship is crowded and cramped and dark, and you know, and it's sort of the comedic, it's kind of a comedic riff on that. So that's what kind of egged me on to watch it. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, I've seen this. It's been a few years since I saw it. But I realized I'd seen it, and I didn't remember much about it, and I won't go into why, but I did remember that stupid alien, which was so annoying, but that whole sequence with the alien was probably the funniest thing in the movie. It was absurd. The whole plot was very absurd, but the point of the plot was to do kind of the same thing as 2001 in a way, was to just show, you know, like how space can drive people nuts, and you know, they can seem like the right people when they're asked to do a mission like this, but then they're, you know, then by the end their mission is so long that they're just losing their minds. And it's all, I think, very intentionally trying to make fun of stuff we've, you know, that's supposed to be serious about these same topics. And I thought it was fine. It didn't have like a real specific, like, oh, this character has this goal or anything like that. But it was strangely hard to stop watching. I mean, you just kept watching because you were like, well, what are these weird people going to do next? And so yeah, and it was, you know, like I said, it was super simple. It had lots of tropey things, you know, from the era of science fiction that began in the late 60s. But it was, I enjoyed it. I liked the ending. I thought it had a little Dr. Strangelove in it too. You had the bombs that were sentient, and then you had, instead of the guy riding the bomb down to his demise, he was going to like surf into the atmosphere of a planet and burn up, and you know, and the guy trying to use the Socratic method on the bomb to get it to not blow up, and then it backfired on him. And you know, the two guys that one of them kind of survived. He got to, you know, the guy Talby, who was looking out into the, you know, he was so just philosophical about the universe, and he ends up getting to go into this weird, like, phenomenon that he's been studying that kind of just floated by, and he got to be part of it and just, I guess, became one with it or whatever. That's sort of like the Stargate sequence with Dave, you know, he like gets transformed, and the guy who was in suspended cryogenic suspension like just floated off into the universe, I guess, you know, in the sub-zero cold of space. He would just kind of go on to live forever, and the one guy got to surf down to the surface, and then the other two guys, who were the most annoying guys in the movie, they just blew up with the ship. And there was something weirdly satisfying, and it kind of got funnier as it went. It was sort of trying too hard in places, but I thought the plot was just enough of a plot to kind of keep me interested. It had sort of little vignettes that sort of were strung together. And it is strangely like 2000-like in that way, and it was, I think, probably underappreciated for its time, and the production quality on it could have been better, but, you know, all these up-and-coming guys were, you know, barely filmmakers at the time, and I think O'Bannon's quote was, he went to a movie theater, he'd done this movie, and they had a pretty good budget by the time it got all the way made, and he'd done this movie, and then he was asked to go overseas to Europe for a while because they were trying to start making a version of Dune, and he went over there to work on that, and it really didn't turn into anything. It didn't turn out, and so he came back to the States, and by the time he was back in the States, this movie was playing in theaters, and he went to a theater to see it, and he said nobody was laughing. And at that moment, he realized, well, if I can't make them laugh, maybe I can make them scream. And I think that's what inspired him to get with Ridley Scott and basically retool elements of this and make Alien out of it. So anyway, I think it's cool. I think it's kind of, you know, the production values are kind of not great, but it kept me watching, and I actually liked the end of it. So back to that NV5FC.
Thank you, Virginia. And I was reading here, I found the wiki on this, and it says the following. It says, the beach ball with claws segment of the film was reworked by O'Bannon in a science fiction horror film, Alien, from 1979. After witnessing audiences failing to laugh at parts of Dark Star which were intended as humorous, O'Bannon commented, if I can't make them laugh, then maybe I can make them is Bill. Bill, I don't think wants to do a lot of comments, but Bill, did you see the film? Is this your first exposure to it, or what's the story on that? I think Bill just jumped on because of, I think he had a weak signal, and he does get on Echolink from time to time. Bill, you want to try and transmit W5DLT from KD5ICX?
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to run across the room. Having everybody describe this, I might give it another go, given the fact that it was kind of a student movie or started that way and then was released. I was just a little lost, so I think this was one where I probably really needed to read the plot and every summary of the movie and the character list before getting into it. So I'm looking forward to listening to the rest of the net and the comments on the movie, and then I'll give it another go. W5BLT.
Okay, very good, Bill, and I'll give you some good details about it on my turn here in a little bit. Sean, KB9SOK, you're next.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, as far as the plot, as I already mentioned, it was pretty thin, pretty simple, almost not even a plot. It was really just kind of one excuse to another to go from one joke to the other. It was clear of the things that they were trying to make fun of. But for me, I can see why audiences struggled with this, because I'll be honest, I struggled with it too. There were so many jokes that came so close to landing, they just weren't quite there. I really, really wanted to like this, and I just struggled with it. It's like I could see the jokes they were trying to make, and it's like if they just took it a little further, or maybe scaled it back, or just put just a little more effort in the delivery of the jokes, I think it could have been, I think, very funny, and audiences would have responded better. And that was one of my biggest problems with this. Is just they just didn't quite land. But then again, as said many times when we watch comedy is very subjective. Unlike drama or other things that can pretty much be universal. We've watched several comedies over the years. We watched Galaxy Quest, which was everybody liked, and I liked it myself as well. They had Spaceballs, which was generally liked, even though they were very generic jokes. And then we've watched a few others. The only other one I think that was pretty rough was the one with the camel with the rocket launchers. That one was pretty bad. But this one, I just struggled with it, just not quite landing for me personally. By no means am I not saying you shouldn't watch this movie or wouldn't recommend it, because once again, everybody's humors are different. Because this movie was kind of on the dry side, which I typically like that kind of thing but for some reason it just, because I was sitting there thinking, well, if you did this a little different, it would have been funnier. There were things, even like the ending sequence with them, trying to convince the bomb. It's like, it was almost funny, and so was the beach ball alien scene. But it just, for that one went on way too long. That was like a third of the movie. So yeah, that's very subjective. So once again, it's not that just because it wasn't funny for me does not mean I wouldn't recommend giving it a try, because it's humor's humor. Anyway, back to that KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Thanks for your comments on the plot. We'll go ahead and ask if there's anyone else out there who would like to check in. Please come now with your call sign name. Did you see tonight's movie? We're talking about Dark Star from 1974. Please come now. Okay, well, I guess it's going to be one of those nights, and we'll finish early. Okay. My comments about the film. I don't disagree with Sean. I thought that the humor was kind of lacking a little bit, but it was still funny. I mean, I was laughing at during some of the script elements when I was reading them, and thought, yeah, that was kind of funny. Hilarity, out and out, but laughable, not necessarily, but it had its moments, and some of that stuff seeped into the sarcasm that went into the sarcastic wit, I guess, that came out and went into Alien on the first film. We know that. As far as the average Joe blue-collar guy that works on the Nostromo. In this case, it's the same thing with Dark Star. These are guys that are there and in over their heads and given up, which would make sense in space driving you nuts, as was mentioned. Sure, why not, right? And so they're kind of like not really all there anymore, and they're acting as anybody would. We're stuck. We can't get anywhere or do anything, so we're just going to live through it. So there's that, and that seems to work pretty well. The alien is ridiculous, but I think that's what the alien was supposed to be, and that's perfectly fine, and it worked, and he was cheap to do, so why not, right? There was no reason to make anything look believable per se, although some of the effects were impressive enough. Greg Jane was involved, by the way. He was working in Hollywood. He's best known for his work on special effects and modeling on Star Trek, The Next Generation, as well as being a keen collector of collectibles from all eras of the original Star Trek and movies and television, you name it, he had all that collection. So he was a super fan, and took all of the money he made being in the business and bought more stuff. But at any rate, he was a part of the film, and I think he offered his services. He'd been doing things professionally by that time, although he was a pretty young guy like these guys were back then. So he was, I think, pretty much their age. At any rate, one of the things about it is that the plot is too long, even with the build out to make it a feature-length film. I think it probably would play better as 58 minutes or even less short subject film, which I think is what it was originally intended to be, a short subject film. Get a grade and we're done. But and so there's a long drawn out discussion in reset. So the pacing on the film is slow until the end, and then it's pretty fun with the bomb and its decision that it wants to blow up. But I thought that was funny. That was cute. That was really the funniest part of it, was the bomb is sure of itself, and they have to talk it into and out of doing things, which is pretty cool. Yes, there's parallels to 2001: A Space Odyssey. There's no doubt there. And I read somewhere in here that there was parallel to a story from Illustrated Man, one of the short stories by Ray Bradbury. In fact, he was unhappy about it. And Ray could get kind of grumpy at times himself. He seemed a pretty affable guy, but there were a few times that he would get unhappy about some stuff. This was one of them. I think he didn't like the remake of Fahrenheit 451 either, but I digress on that one. Let me think. If there's anything else I want to say about this part of the film. Probably not. I'll look into it and see here if there's anything else on this next round. But anyone else want to check in? Please come now.
Kilo November 5, Echo, Echo, Echo. This is Al from Allen. I have seen the movie, but I'm just kind of having fun lurking and listening. Don't really have any comments tonight.
Well, thank you for checking in. Did you say your name was, I've got Kilo November 9er, Echo, 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 and your name again? Is it Ron?
It's Kilo November 5, number 5, Echo, Echo, Echo. My name is Al, Alpha Lima, and I'm from Allen, Texas.
All right, thank you, Al. My pen ran out. I started to write, and so yes, I've got you down, KN5 Triple E. Al, and I think you've checked in before, and I'm glad you checked in with us tonight. Okay, if you've got any comments along the way, just feel free to reach us, and we'll do it. This may be a quick net this evening, I think. Not sure why, but sometimes that happens. Okay, we'll go and do our next round. This one will be characterization and acting. So, Brenda, WP50ZL, you're first. Please go ahead.
This is WP50ZL. I'm sorry, did you call on me?
You're up for characterization.
Sorry about that. This is WP50ZL. Well, my impression, a lot of it is slackers in space. These characters, you know, they're just all a bunch of goobers and, you know, not real impressive people, not professional astronauts like you'd think, not terribly bright, and their housekeeping was horrible, and I don't know. I mean, they certainly did not impress me, but I can't think of any character in here who I'd want to get in a spaceship with. I'll just say that. But I guess that's kind of the point. Well, I guess short and sweet. I don't have much else to say. Oh, the beach ball. He was hilarious, and I mean, that was the best part. So, okay, back to net, WP50ZL.
Okay, well, D5F, Virginia, the same question to you. What do you think about their characterization and acting?
Okay, well, I'm with Brenda. It's slackers in space, but as I said before, I think it was intentional to be like, let's have it be sort of that same, like, let's show how dishwater dull space can be, but instead of smart PhD guys, we've got these slacker guys, because if you're going to send people to do a really, terrible job like blowing up planets that are unstable, which is so implausible. I should have put that in my plot summary before. I mean, they don't even try to be scientific here. But yeah, if you're going to send some guys in space like for 20 or 30 years to do the dirty work. They're just, I guess, just send the slacker guys. And hey, maybe they started out as really straight-laced, clean-cut guys, and they just kind of didn't care after a while, so they ended up with their 70s hair and their big beards and their bad housekeeping and their sloppy living and their vices and weird affinities like playing cards or doing the stupid hand knife trick or the funky musical instrument that you design out of junk because you don't have anything else to do, or just sitting in the observation bubble looking at the sky. And so I think they were for a movie that had a very thin plot that was mostly saying satirical things, I think that they were pretty satirical of what people expected space astronaut guys to be. They were just kind of the goofy, weird, guys that probably back on Earth nobody liked that much. And the dead Commander Powell, Captain Powell, Commander Powell, I don't know. That whole thing, I'm not sure what exactly they were trying to say with him, but yeah, he was very weird. And the beach ball alien was definitely stole the show, but I think that was the whole idea, like let's subvert expectations by having this alien that this guy, I guess maybe he rescued it from a planet they were about to destroy, and I remember one part he's like, and to think I once thought you were cute, or something like that. The acting was so-so, these guys weren't great actors, but it's weird. It's one of those things where you watch it, and like you said, Tom, the timing, the timing wasn't great, or things just, but it wasn't like they were trying too hard to be funny. They just maybe weren't trying hard enough. I don't know. It's hard to describe because it's weird. It's likably unfunny. Like, it's just sort of like, well, at least they weren't, at least, I mean, they're obviously trying to be funny if it's a comedy, but they weren't, it wasn't like they were, like, I've seen comedies where, like, I guess one of my favorite examples is when I was a kid, I was all excited because Weird Al had made a movie called UHF, and my cousin and I loved Weird Al, and we had all his tapes and knew every word to every song, and we were so excited that he made a movie. And, of course, the movie itself was a big parody of other movies and other TV shows, and it was slapstick, is what you'd expect. And when I was a kid, I loved it, but then when I watched it as an adult, I was like, this is not funny. Like, they were trying so, it's like, oh, I'm Weird Al, I'm funny, let me try really hard to be funny. And this is sort of the opposite. It's like, not quite funny enough, but it's for a different reason that, maybe the actors could have been better actors or better comedians with better timing. But I saw what they were trying to do. They were trying to do satire. And yeah, if they had had better actors or actors that were, specifically comedic actors, and had stayed with the same simple format and didn't try to get too big or too pretentious, it might, timing and everything. And when I was watching it, I was like, it tried so hard, and it really wasn't super funny, but it's still funny. It's just, these guys are weirdly, Doolittle and Talby were, they were weirdly likable. They were kind of earnest, and then, Pinback and Boiler were just kind of, loafers and jerks, and then the Commander Powell guy, that was just very weird. It was almost like he was Dave Bowman or something, and he had already gone across to the other side or something. I don't know, but what strikes me is, I've seen this twice in the last week, so that has something to do with it, but I remember all these people's names. And I was remarking to one of my 2001 buddies over email not too long ago that I've read almost every Arthur C. Clarke book, and the only Arthur C. Clarke book where I can remember any of the characters' names is 2001. So there's something to it. Not great actors, but characters that stood apart from each other enough. They were kind of interchangeable in some ways because they all had big beards and long hair, and were all kind of goofballs. But overall, I found them workable, likable, and I strangely liked this movie. And yes, the alien was the funniest and probably the greatest character and the best acting in the whole show because he was obviously a real alien. Back to net, MV5F.
Okay, Virginia, thanks. The real alien. That worked out perfectly. Well, yeah, okay. All right. Next up, I'll skip on down to Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think about characterization and acting? I do have comments about what you said, Virginia. I'm going to wait to the end. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I'm not sure what to say about the acting. They obviously weren't comedic actors. I agree. I think if they had real comedy actors, the jokes probably would have landed better. Now, for me personally, I kind of had the opposite feeling that Virginia did about the characters being distinguishable or in their names. To me, they blended together. I couldn't tell you even one of their names because they all almost looked alike and acted, for the most part, just alike. Yes, slightly different. We had the one in the observation bubble that was, the dreamer. Then we had the second in command, now first in command, which was just completely given up on life, I guess. And then we had kind of your soldier guy, kind of the one to shoot everything. Then we had the other guy that was supposed to be kind of the runt of the group and the butt of everybody's joke. And then, we had the beach ball. For me, actually, I give best acting actually to the bomb. I thought it did the best acting in this film. Beach ball gets a second. So, I don't have a whole lot to say on characterization on this. Anyway, back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Well, let's see. What did I say about this film? I watched this week. They're coming out with a sequel to This Is Spinal Tap. I think it's The End Continues or something is the name of the movie. And I saw them in an interview on one of the late night shows. And funny doesn't even begin to describe their interaction. That film was done it was mostly improvisational. But what it was and what works is that each of these people play their characters so well that they are those characters, and the way they act and react, they're all slightly not all there. Either they burnt out on drugs or they just weren't all that intelligent, but somehow or another they were able to put out enough so-called songs to live okay and get by. And they hadn't changed all that much, although they were older. But they gave all of the, and they come out and they really look like they got old. They did get old, but they still have their long hair and everything. I think that they tried to do something like that with Dark Star, but I don't think they could quite pull it off because of the script and the people involved couldn't quite do that. But if they could have inhabited their roles a little bit more, I think it probably would have worked better and it would have been a little bit funnier. I don't know. It was just one of those meeting of the worlds with Spinal Tap, which, by the way, if you've ever seen the original, you've got to watch it. If you haven't, you've got to watch it. It is pretty darn funny. And most of it's improvised through the whole thing. And the film's 2 hours long, or close to that. And this has a little bit of that element in it. At least the characters hail from that kind of thought process, I think. There was some talk about whether, I can't remember when, who said it, but there was some talk about, would they go nuts and crazy astronauts and all of that. We already have examples of crazy astronauts in space. We have the Apollo 7 mission, where the 3 astronauts protested, would not do what mission control asked them to do when they returned to Earth and wear their pressure suits, or their helmets, I should say, because the seats weren't, they had colds and they didn't want to wear space helmets. They were also unhappy about the seats, which were not the flight couches that would fly on all the other missions. These are the ones that would be used in Apollo 1 where the astronauts perished, and they did not particularly like that. But that was one of the stories. So there was some rebellion there. And then Skylab 4, which was, or 3, depending on how you look at it, mission-wise, it's the 3rd manned mission, let's say that, and technically Skylab 4. But in any case, that crew, they called it a mutiny. It really wasn't a mutiny. They just didn't respond to mission control for one orbit. They just turned the radio off and let Skylab go around the Earth once, and then came back on because they were unhappy with their workload. And they got a little scruffy, by the way, because they were in space for so darn long. All of the crews that came back, and each mission was a little bit longer. This one was, 90 days? No, I think it was more than that. I have to look and see, but it was at least 3 months. They got a little crazy along the way. So it is possible it's a real thing. They were just kidding about it in this film, but it is a real thing. It happens to the best of them. Under pressure or time constraints or just weirdness of being in the loneliness of space, people do go a little crazy. It does happen. So NASA's very aware of it, and they try and prevent that sort of thing from happening. Oh, and by the way, both crews, all 6 astronauts involved with this, Apollo 7 and Skylab 4, or 3, never flew in space again. So they, but thanks for the advice, but no thanks. But at least they tried. So there you have it. Okay. Anyone else want to check in before we continue, or have any comments outside of the order that I've got here? Okay, well, we'll continue on. Let's move on to special effects, music, any of that jazz. We'll start with Brenda, WV5OZL. What do you got for us?
This is WB5OZL. For his day and for no budget, it wasn't that bad. It sure, 2001 outshone it, but it also outspent it. A lot of the special effects were cheesy, or they just didn't show anything. They weren't showing the spaceship. They were showing the heads, talking heads. Excuse me. It's not as believable a spaceship or flying space as in a lot of other movies we've seen that cost a lot of money. So, well, short and sweet. That is all I got. WV5OZL.
Okay, that's fine. Next up is Virginia as we blaze through this movie. NV5F, go ahead.
Okay, well, I do have to go back onto characters a little bit. It was funny, Sean. You talked about how you couldn't tell the characters apart, and then you described them one from another better than I could have. So I don't know. Maybe you didn't remember their names, but you seemed to distinguish them with better descriptions than I could make of them. I also realized that I hadn't talked about the other great characters, which were the bombs, and they were, I love Hal, so anything with like a talking computerized thing. There was definitely some, philosophical artificial intelligence stuff in here, and the ship's computer, to me, was obviously the predecessor of Mother from Alien. And I think I made a remark last night that Sal 9000 only wishes she were that polite. They were also very polite, but also intractable. So anyway, they definitely should get some mention as interesting and rememberable characters. Special effects were cheesy. I think they were cheesy on purpose. They probably would have done better special effects if they had more money, at least to some degree, but they definitely didn't have any of the timing, the good timing of, a lot of what made 2001 special effects great was that they were done in such a way where just the actual physics of them looked real based on scale and movement, how fast everything was moving, and there didn't seem to be any effort in that direction for this movie at all. The models looked like little cheesy models, and the scale was crazy, and the lighting, wasn't great. And so, yeah, special effects, music, typical sci-fi movie stuff. The cinematography and lighting overall was not great. It looked like a student film. Even Dan O'Bannon said that. He's like, this is the most amateur professional film ever made, or something like that. Anyway, I should probably put that fanzine, drop it in the messenger thread for people to read, because the article that my friend Brad wrote about Alien, the history of the Alien franchise, starting with Dark Star, Dan O'Bannon and Dark Star, was a pretty good article. Anyway, yeah, cheesy, but kind of what you'd expect, and, there were lots of 70s movies with even worse special effects than this one. So, back to net, NV5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Appreciate it, and thanks for doing carrying the load tonight when it came to descriptions about this particular movie and Oxford. It's appreciated because there's not a lot there, but you brought out a lot of fleshed out a lot of the better details of the film and the fun parts. Okay, next up, this skip Bill for now and Al, and I'll go to Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your final thoughts on the film. You can also chime in on special effects, music, or anything else. It's wide open. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. But you're correct, Virginia. I guess I should have clarified that what I meant by couldn't distinguish them was more on the visual. There was a couple times when they were showing a character, I had to really okay, which one was this? And once they started talking, then I instantly, okay, it's that one. So, yeah, no, they were technically distinguishable people. It's just visually, at a glance, he's like, first, which was this again? Then once they started talking, it's like, okay. But you are correct on that. Yeah, I've got to mention the ship's computer. Yeah, I've got to mention that one. Anyway, this is special effects. Yeah, they were cheesy. I didn't mind that, and especially in a comedy, that part didn't bother me at all. I actually kind of liked part of the interior of the ship. Once again, it was confined, which is more realistic, so I'll give them credit on that one, but it's more about probably cost. Their bridge and the 50 million switches, that was actually kind of comical, them just constantly just randomly pressing hundreds of switches. So I was actually okay with that. You know, I think really, obviously the two worst effects were the beach ball, but I think that was intentional. But once again, that kind of goes back to early sci-fi and the cheesy costumes that were clearly not real aliens, or even on the early Star Trek episodes, some of those aliens were pretty rough looking. So I think that was very intentional. So that didn't bother me as much. I mean, it was dumb, but then probably I'd say some of the worst effects are probably more just like when they were supposedly turning on their shields. That was extremely low budget. But all in all, yeah, it's what I would expect for this. So yeah, the effects actually didn't bother me in this film because it kind of fit the film. Probably the only other one I remember while I was watching it was pretty bad was when the guy was trying to get through the elevator and the floor was, you know, flexing so much up and down, you could tell it was just, you know, cardboard. So I was like, okay. Now, once again, maybe that was intentional. I don't know. But anyway, it's good to listen to everybody. So, as always, enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to the next one. Back to net, this is KB9SOK.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for your comments as well. I think it helped out for the evening. I'm going to ask if Bill, W5DLT, or Al, and KN5EEE, if either of you have any comments you want to make, here's your opportunity before I close it out. You don't have to say anything if you don't have anything for us, but if you do, please come out.
W5DLT.
All right, W5DLT, go ahead, Bill.
Well, I could not find anything to really back this up, but I read that this movie not only inspired Alien and some other films later, but also the TV series Red Dwarf, which was a British TV series that probably everybody here knows, but I love that series. And, you know, kind of based on the descriptions that, from the net tonight, I could see where that could be true. So, anyway, I enjoyed everybody's input tonight, and I'll go back and watch this and give it another chance. It helped me to fill in some details on what was happening, so as always, it's very appreciated. W5DLT.
Well, very good. I hope you enjoy it, Bill. It's hard to describe because there's not a lot of action on the screen. There really isn't. It is mostly dialogue. They're just kind of like staring at one another through the whole thing. There's a little bit in the elevator shaft and a little bit outside, but most of it's incidental. So, at any rate, yeah, it's not the perfect film by any stretch of the imagination. It's just kind of long and it can get laboriously slow pacing, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Special effects-wise, several parts of it were quite good, I thought. They were talking about the rotoscope effects they did for the hyperdrive, which has never been done before, and then it just a couple of years later ended up in Star Wars. Much better quality, of course. Models, yeah, they look like little tiny models ultimately, even though Craig Jean was involved, who did tons of models for Star Trek later on. But then again, you look at somebody like John Dykstra, who worked on on Star Wars, and then he does Star Lost, which was really terrible, and the effects look really terrible in that. But he does Star Wars, and he does a great job on that. So you tell me. I guess money has everything to do with it. It helps to sell the thing. Overall, though, it wasn't bad. I thought the effects looked fairly good for the time and the budget. I mean, it did better than anything I could have possibly have done. Even with modern technology, I couldn't have done most of the stuff that they did. So I'll give them that. And using practical effects to make the things work certainly worked in their favor. Let's see, music-wise, it was okay. I like the idea of kind of the country rock music that they did. I will say that a lot of bands have taken and used voice clips and things from this film, and they're big fans of this thing. So it must have had some sort of an impression on people. Most people do remember it when they've seen it. Let's see. I'll go ahead and talk about next week's film. This is a favorite of mine. I wanted to put it out several months ago, but the film disappeared, and hopefully it won't disappear next week. But it's called Free Enterprise. It is written by Mark Alton, and it's almost an autobiography. Let me read you the description. It says, filmmakers trying to hawk a movie titled Brady Killers about a serial killer who goes after victims Marcia, Jan, and Cindy meet their screen idol William Shatner. The two young men who idolize him and their fantasies have seen him as a shadowy fairy godfather figure are alarmed at the reality of the middle-aged non-Captain Kirk man they meet. So when this is a funny film. I enjoy it. There's a lot of in-jokes, but if you don't know the in-jokes, the story itself is still a lot of fun. It stars, what is his name? Eric McCormick. He was a nobody when they made this film. Now he's pretty well known on television as a television actor in a number of series through the years. So you'll recognize him when you see him. He looks like he's about 12 years old in this thing. It does have William Shatner in it. He was a good sport playing the character Bill in 1998. That'll be next week's film. And with that, I'll go ahead and ask if anybody has any final comments or anything they want to say before we say goodnight. Please come now. Okay, good enough. I get to go to bed a little early, and you do too, and we'll do this all again next week. So I'd say safe travels to everyone, whatever you're doing this week, and we'll do this again next week. Same bat time, same bat station. This is KE5 ICX, now clear.